Welcome to this ECOS lab. We are here at Sierra Espuña in Totana with very nice and good ensembles that are doing a residency here. And we are going to talk today about the challenge of the 21st century. We are talking today about the demographical challenge of the depopulation and international relations. We have three promoters that have agreed to be here today to talk to four ensembles. We have representatives of Ibera Auri, Liturina, Rio Aido, and the Letone Consort. They are going to play the concerts this week here at the ECOS Festival of Sierra Espuña, and they are going to participate in this roundtable, this experience of ECOS Lab. This is the second edition that we do, so thanks for all that make possible, the community of Sierra Espuña and the University of Murcia to make possible that we are here today. I would like to introduce the promoters that are joining us today. In first place, we have Bart Demuyt. He comes from AMUZ and the Alamire Foundation. Bart, good morning.
Good morning, Jorge. So I would say let us focus on the demographic challenges of today in the early music world. So thanks for the invitation to discuss this topic with young musicians, because this is really so important for the future. Reading the proposals of the ensembles, because Jorge, you sent to the ensembles some questions and they gave some answers, and the proposal or the answers were for me very, very interesting. Thank you for sending us that. And yes, if we look to our concert halls in Europe, we see an audience that is more we see more gray hairs in the audience or in the concert halls than we see some young people. And yes, I have to say that the concerts of early music, most of the concerts are in churches or in concert halls and not in idyllic places around. Also for me, if you look to the concert programs, then I would say that the programs are rather conservative concepts than very dynamic concepts where there is a real interaction between the audience and between the musicians. So we most of the times we are listening to programs with applause in the beginning and applause at the end. So in AMUZ, Flanders Festival Antwerp in Belgium, we are working on the issue of the demographic challenges, doing some new projects since years. So with a focus on the very, very, very young listeners, so to the babies and to children, doing real concerts for babies and children. And you have to know the parents always come with them. So then we have young parents, young adults and children together. And it's really working. So, and the second issue is in our concert hall, most of you have seen the concert hall already. So we have a church, and in the church and all the rooms around, it's possible to have some workshops with children, with classes from schools in the neighborhood. And it really works to bring the young generation into our concert venue. And we can hope that these young guys are really the audience for the future. So bridging young generation with the more elite, we have to know most of the people in the concert hall have money. So it's an issue to bring it in balance. And to finish my small talk, I think it's also an issue to bring in other disciplines, that it's not only the ears, but also the eyes, and maybe also one moment, the smell. Why not to bring in other senses in the concept of a performing. But I will focus on one last quote of David Morony. And Morony said one moment, a musician is a kind of auditory magnifying glass. You will emphasize the things you believe to be important based on your research. The performer's task lies in revealing the music and communicating what they believe to be beautiful. And of course, the essential thing is not the magnificent glass, but the music itself.
Thank you very much, Bart, for this synthesis and for all your speech. We are here to be inspired by you, and we are young musicians want to learn how to bring beauty and how to bring changes to the society. And it's very nice to listen to you. Let's listen now to Maider Múgica. She is the Deputy Director of the Centro Nacional de Difusión de Múgica from the Spanish Ministry of Culture. Maider, buenos días.
Hola, muy buenos días a todos. Thank you so much for this invitation. I'm very happy to be here and looking forward to listen to the thoughts and experiences of all of you. So very briefly, the Centro Nacional de Difusión Musical, it's an institution, public institution that belongs to the Culture Ministry, more specifically to the INAEM, and its main tasks are to give a program, a season to the Auditorio Nacional de Múgica. So we we have the artistic direction of the auditorio, but more than half of the activities of the institution are not in Madrid, but in all the provinces of Spain and also abroad. And there we focus much more on supporting the Spanish musical heritage and also the musicians that take part of it. And also we contribute to the creation of new music. So we are not only focused on ancient music, but also in the very contemporary music. Talking about the challenge of having activities not in only the capital centers, I must say that one of the examples that we have that could probably fit very well in this roundtable is Museo Fostel, not because of the type of music that we program there, but because it's a museum that was founded by an artist, by Wolf Fostel, already in 1976. And what he did differently from other festivals is that he started funding a museum that incorporated all the citizens of the Malpartida in Cáceres, a very small city of 4,000 inhabitants, as protagonists of the museum and of the Fluxus movement. So, and I think that we have come into a moment when festivals have become for many new groups also a visit card, as recordings and albums were a few years ago. And I wonder whether now, instead of focusing only in creating festivals that can help with tourism temporarily in a fixed time of the year, just to bring people and to make a population more known, I just wonder whether it is the time to do something more permanent and that interacts in very close connection with the inhabitants of a place. I think there is now a lot of how do you say, a lot of space and for the growth of this kind of activities, where we can listen a little bit more to the audience, to the inhabitants, and see what they can also offer, so that there is more talk and more interchange of tradition and of the learning process, that we are not only telling them how they should listen to the music that we know better, but that maybe they can tell you about the music of their own traditions and the music that they know better than we do, and find there the connections. Looking forward to hear more ideas from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Maider. That's very, very interesting. Thank you for bringing your experience and your ideas here. And now we will listen to Pierre Bornachot from the Centre Culturel de Murcia. He also is in charge. He's working very closely to the EEEmerging class ensemble project where we were taking part. And we are very, very happy that we can listen to his ideas and to his inputs. Pierre, bonjour.
Hello, Jorge. Thank you very much for inviting us to talk about these very important topics. Of course, there are a lot of demographic challenges we have to embrace or to face that depend on how we see the points. We in Ambronay are in, as you are, in a rural area, so we have to face a lot of problems that are related to the connections between cities and rural areas. And we embrace it through, I would say, a lot of our programs, a lot of our projects that we make the whole year, not only during the festival. The keywords for me are, and it's very connected to what Maider and Bart said, it's connected to places, of course. For example, we have a problem in Ambronay is that the church is the actual church of the village with a priest, so we cannot do whatever we want in the church. We have to maybe focus more on the, we were talking about senses earlier, we have to focus more on the ear in the church, and we have other places that we create especially to work on the other senses, to work on the shows with dance, with comedy, in order to connect the early music with other dynamics and other things that will make a younger audience come. So that's the difficulty we have to face. And another keyword for me would be interaction. Interaction between the audience and the artists. And this interaction, this connection, how do we create it in Ambronay? We work on the long term, and that's maybe we will have to talk about it later in the discussion, but we really believe in residencies, in the presence of artists within our abbey to meet the people and to create a real connection. Our famous example for that is Leonardo Garcia Alarcón, who came here for almost more than a decade and created a real relationship with the audience. And for example, this year we have a premiere of a whole work he wrote, an actual composition of his. And as surprising as it may be, we already have 600 people in the church. And I think it will be full because it's in 2 weeks from now. So when we create a link, a very strong link between the audience and the artist, they are ready to open to a lot of things. And we see that younger audience come to this concert. And the last thing I would say is, a last keyword for me is participation. And when I say participation of the audience, I mean we have to be more connected to the expectations of the audience, to maybe ask them what they want to hear, what kind of form they want to see, and that helps us a lot to create new forms of repertoire, new forms of pieces. This year we have, for example, 5 commissions to composers of our time that will mix early music to present music. The point is to make the early music a present music, a music of our days. And I think it's everything we try to do year after year. Even as I said, we have difficulties, for example, with a place which is at the beginning not the ideal place to do like video or other things. We will never have a dancer in the church, for example, which is a pity, but so we have to focus on other things. So that would be my point would be that we really have to work on the long-term relationship between artists and institutions. And the solution to these demographic challenges can only come from the relationship we build with the artist. If we make an artist come just for one concert and then leave, okay, it can happen, and it happens during the festival. But the whole point of the Centre Culturel de Rencontre, the Cultural Encounter Center, is to make people meet each other and create new ways of playing this early music and showing this early music.
So many good ideas. Thank you, Pierre. Thank you, Maider. Thank you, Bart. Probably while your colleagues were talking, you had some thoughts. Maybe you want to give a feedback from the institutional part of from the festivals about what your colleagues said. Bart, Demuyt.
Yeah, thank you, Maider, and thank you, Pierre. I think the keywords, as Pierre said at the end of his talk, participation, interaction, but Maider spoke also about more interaction. And for me, one very, very important issue, Maider spoke about collaboration with the inhabitants, and I think this is really a key for the future. I think this is also the situation since years in Ambronay. Ambronay, I was several times in the festival. It's really in the middle of a group of people, of a small town and a living town. So everything comes together in the festival. So I think this is important because I know also festivals of some musicians doing a festival in another country, in an idyllic place, but most of the people there are not the inhabitants, but people coming to the festival from the country where the musician is coming from. So I think there's really a key for the future, in my opinion.
Thank you very much, Bart. Let's listen to Maider Múgica.
Yes, thank you, Bart, and thank you, Pierre. I'm very happy to hear your words and your experiences in the places that you work. I think there are many enriched ideas and many things going on, which is very. It makes me very enthusiastic about the future. I just want to add a little point just to make sure that we don't forget about the regular audience that goes to regular concerts, because I don't think that these kind of new formats and new activities that we are trying to develop or to try out should replace the regular concert tradition that we already know. Because I think sometimes there is a risk, or there is a tendency, and like around just in front to the future, to create a new audience without taking into account that we do have already an audience, and that we have to treat it well, and we have to deliver what they need and what they are prepared for. So I don't think we should just put aside the formats that are working and that are successful, and that they have a reason why they are there. And it's a way of listening to music that has already shown that is important for many people. Mm-hmm. So I think we should just to add more things, and we have to be also very careful sometimes in how we add new ideas to the regular concert halls and the regular audiences, and we have to decide better and more clearly when we have to separate these things and these ideas. Just this also for future comments. Thank you.
Yes, Maider, thank you very much. Pierre, you want to add something?
Yes, everything that's been said is really interesting. Of course, we mustn't forget and we mustn't put aside the, as you said, the regular audience, people who are coming actually in a church to hear beautiful music in a beautiful place with a beautiful acoustics. And there are still a lot, of course. But I think then we can imagine things in a different way to have this relationship with it can be after, it can be before the concert, it can be new ways of communicating with an audience on the social networks and everything to prepare people to come to the concert so that maybe they know how they can, what they will be living in this place. We have to keep on this side of the business, but of the festival, but make it maybe less sacred as it was once, and as maybe sometimes it still is. You know, you're coming in, you cannot, especially in the big concert halls, you cannot applause between the movements, and there are really strict codes. Even if you are listening to beautiful music, maybe some things could be a little bit lighter and less strict that they are, but this is for another repertoire. For ours, I think it's really imperative to, actually, it's just telling a story. We tell a story, and if, of course, we cannot tell it with during the concert with images or even with words, because in Ambronais, if you try to speak to the audience, no one will hear you, actually, which is a pity. But it's so big, and the acoustic is not made for that. So we have to make very complicated things with microphones. And so sometimes we prefer not to say anything, but we tell the story before, and then after, the people can meet the artist and speak with them. So it's just different ways of creating new formats, but still respecting also the old formats.
Thank you, Pierre. I saw some reactions on the promoters' faces. If you want to add something else, Bart or Maider, we still have a couple of minutes for that. Maider, please.
Just a little question. No, not a question. Just a little thought that I think also that in a concert you can have like parallel narratives, like different messages that are shared simultaneously, but that impact in the audience in a different level. And the challenge is how you can combine all those stories and messages so that you impact in the audiences in the way they need or they expect. And I was very recently in some exhibitions in Germany and in some museums. We don't need to talk about which specific ones, but something that I've seen there and that I loved is that in most of them you can have some explanation in German, another one in English, and another one in easy German. And I think this is fantastic because in the same space, in the same exhibition, and it could be applied also to the music in the same concert, you could have different stories, different messages that go like in the very specialized musical way, but also in the very easy way for different audiences. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maider. If you don't want to add anything else, Bart or Pierre, we can move to the next topic or the next interaction. We are going to talk to the musicians. We have heard your ideas from the institutions or for the institution, although we could also already get inspired for some ideas or projects we can think on. But as we are very interested also how to deal on this global world, this global Europe with local ensembles or ensembles that are formed in the major cities for early music, like here we have Brussels, London, Basel. How can we, as musicians, how can we interact with this international challenge? How can we, how can we keep our identity or offer a new identity, or how can we build an offer in Europe and the rest of the world, keeping our unique elements and elements that we can maybe feel represented on, but also find a communication, sharing, and ideas through this international environment of the early music. So if you want to talk to the musicians, as Maider was the last one, maybe Pierre, you can talk directly to the musicians. What can they do? And afterwards, they will answer you, of course.
Yes, thank you, Jorge. It's not a difficult topic, I think. My main point of view, and we have been talking, for example, a lot about that during the last RIMA conferences. RIMA is the network gathering all the actors of the early music sector. And one of my key idea, I think, and I try to share it with young artists when they come to Ambronay through Emerging Plus, for example, is that we have to change the concept of the tour or the tournée itself. I mean, in the past, an artist was successful when he was making a great tour around Europe, playing in all the major cities and everything. And we see that now, of course, with all the sustainability issues and climate issues, it's maybe something we have to slow down, but we have to make a different concept of what a success is. Success is maybe not touring in all the countries, but maybe to have 1 week or 2 weeks little tour in a small rural area where you will meet a lot of people, maybe not 5,000, but maybe 500 or maybe 50, but they will be so thrilled and so enthusiastic to hear you, to talk with you, to share things with you, that it will be a great success. So that's what we try to do. And of course, for climate issues, basic issues that we can see now and that we have to face, touring on a local scale is also important. That's what we try to make when we, for example, with Emerging, is to combine the two views, the global one and the local one. People are coming from abroad, which is ecologically not ideal, we agree on that, but they're not coming for 2 days, they're coming for 10 days. And within these 10 days, they will do actions with the people around. As Bart said earlier, we are in a very small village, so we have to go towards people. And that would be my last advice. I mean, of course, our interest is to make people come to Ambronay and to see the Abbey and to see on a touristic perspective. But we tried on the last year also to go towards them. Otherwise, they will never come. Even if they live at, let's say, 15 kilometers from Ambronay, they will never come to Ambronay. So we go to them. The last action we have made is to have a truck, a bus, transformed in a concert stage with the ensemble Masque called L'Échappée, and we went to 10 little villages around. We brought with this moving and roaming stage where people were playing Baroque music, but welcoming students, scholars, and elder people, and everyone was coming into this truck and sitting there very close to their house and then listening to music. So it's also a way. I don't mean that you imperatively have to buy a truck to make it, but it's an idea to go to the people, and if they don't come to you, you have to go to them and organize small tours on a local perspective.
In your opinion, Maider and Múgica, what can do as musicians for this topic, local and global today?
I think nowadays is more important than ever having a specific personality as an ensemble, and this can come from the repertoire that one chooses. And of course, the question would be whether each country should only perform the repertoire of its country, and I don't think like that. But I think it is a claim, it is something that make ensembles unique and that contributes to the development of the in heritage of a country. And I'm sure there are many ways to put together music from our own heritage together with music from other countries, creating stories about how this music coexisted or enriched the other at that time. And there are many ways to use this as something, as a tool, as a visit card that makes us different from each other nowadays, when everybody has access to the very standard music. And reacting a little bit to what Pierre said about the fact that maybe now success is not creating a very big tour. The answer to this, for example, from the CNDM institution, is that in order also to maintain some sustainability of the project, we try to create mini tours together with other co-producers, with partners that we work with in different provinces. So we try to present the same repertoire, the same program with the same musicians in, how do you say, in very compact days, like one after the other, so that we are minimizing the efforts, also the budget, and the efforts of the group to be together, to rehearse, and for the traveling.
Thank you, Maider. Bart?
Thank you, Maider and Pierre. Already a lot of keywords are discussed. I think together with the personality of an ensemble, as Maider already said, and the personality of musicians, and the unicity of the repertoire, but also the unicity of the way of performing of an ensemble, I would like to focus also to a third keyword, and that's quality. Because I know that's a tricky issue, because we're all working very hard to have the quality, but I think as a promoter, and if you are working in a rural region, or you are working in a big city, I think at this moment, quality is very, very important. So in my opinion, the high standard of an ensemble, is it a young ensemble or an ensemble with éminence grise? It doesn't depend on that, but the quality is really a very, very important issue. And about sustainability, I would say, Pierre spoke about that, but also Maider. I think one issue is quite important and isn't said yet, because on the one hand, it's I believe you are right, Pierre, to say that sometimes giving 5 concerts in a rural area is very important, and you can focus on that your whole career. But I know that in a lot of minds, in the young minds, it's really a dream to have CD recordings, to work together with Harmonia Mundi, to work together with the big Sony labels. And then you are combining your work as a musician, and you are also one of the elements in a bigger world, and it's a commercial world, because in the Canadian market, if they believe in a young ensemble, let's have a name, Solazzo Ensemble. We know Pierre worked together with Solazzo, I worked together with Solazzo. Yes, once they are in the USA or in Canada or in another part of the world, they really want that the ensemble is there. So then we have the question, how to manage, if they are going to New York, is it just for one concert, or is it a collaboration with Europe and the USA? So I think on the level of the promoters, on the level of the government, we have to find new new ways to support a very, very good network, a very good yes, basement to make that the ensemble or the musicians that are focusing on the rural region are as much important as ensembles focusing on an international, global, worldwide importance. So I think there, on the level of the subvention, it's not clear. The government, is it in Flanders or elsewhere, they are giving money to an ensemble to do their job. But my question is then, for each ensemble, for each musician, give me an answer on the question, what is your goal? What do you want? And I think there we have a lot to do to discuss about that with you guys, young musicians, but also with promoters, also with government responsibilities.
We have questions, we have ideas, and we have here young ensembles that can answer them. So I will give the word first to Ian Hall, representative of the London-based ensemble Difusión. Ian.
Hello. So Litorina is an ensemble which focuses primarily on trio sonata repertoire, but recently we've been giving real consideration to the demographic challenge, and we've got a few projects coming up which are sort of based on that, and it's been really interesting listening to you all. It's given me lots of new ideas for how we can enhance those projects, so thank you very much for that. So something that we've got coming up is we're going to be performing in a pub elsewhere. So that's looking at the idea of getting away from the churches and the concert halls. And it's also a way that we can consider our repertoire for the audience and also draw on what they might expect. So I think that can inspire us as an ensemble. And we're also looking at commissioning a set of jazz compositions by London-based jazz composers. And we're going to pair these with some of our favorite trio sonatas. So we're not necessarily alienating our regular audience, but we're giving something a bit different and hopefully drawing people in from a separate genre, like blurring the boundaries of genre. And I'll just also touch on sort of our big project that we've got coming up, which I think is very much applicable to the concept of the demographic challenge. And we're planning to arrange 24 of Bach's preludes and fugues for various different instrumental forces. So perhaps making sort of quite unusual forces. We're going to get flute, bassoon, viola, double bass, and put these all together. And we're going to record them and release them day by day in the build up to Christmas. So the idea behind that being that we're producing bite-sized media clips, which can be accessible to young audiences and hopefully instill love for early music at a young age. And also it's going to be something that's potentially quite transportable, because we're not doing our setup of harpsichord with everything. So we've got instruments that can move around. But as has been mentioned earlier today, it's also very important for us that we're going to take this project and we're going to do it in our churches and our concert halls, and we do it in a more standard format as well. So trying to get a mix and address a wide range of demographic. So yeah.
Thank you, Ian. We're gonna give the microphone to Simon and Anita from Trio Aido to listen if they have just some idea or feedback from what they asked Pierre, Bart, and Maider, and they propose. And afterwards, we will listen also, after they give the feedback, we will listen also to your answer of the question that we have today. But now, do you have anything you want to answer to the promoters?
Yeah, I it was very interesting to listen to all your ideas, and there are now things going on in my mind. And I think Maider and Pierre, you guys said that it's important to interact with the audience. And I was thinking, like, you know, when we teach, everyone knows when you teach, you think about what does the kid know, what can they identify with, and then you try and bring music to them. But when we play a concert, we don't think about what they know. We just come with a repertoire, we play. But what if we took more time to think about what is it that they identify with, and then we play new things for them in that way. So
thank you, Simon. We will give the microphone to Pierre from the vocal, the recorders concert, the Ledon concert.
Hi, thank you so much for all the interesting and inspiring inputs, I must say. I think because we actually started our ensemble in 2020, so within the pandemic. So first we really had to focus on the local scale in Flanders, because it was not possible. For us, by the way, it's the first time we go abroad. So I think that's also very important to know about our traject that we're already following with the Ledon concert. Yes, we've noticed, of course, that online marketing is such an important thing to create a new audience, to create and to communicate with a younger audience. So we really went on the visual part, how to create a website that's not like this early music website that we often know with lots of text and lots of information, but really focus on the visual part with the Instagram, with the Facebook, like creating one identity. Who are we? And also that we can be ourselves. I think this was very important for this ensemble, because we started like really classical performing in black clothes, in black dresses in a church. And I think at a certain point, we really wanted to reinvent what we are, but perform early music at a really high level with lots of quality, because that's, of course, our priority. We also wanted to create an open dialogue, not within the ensemble, because we have like, how do I say it, a shared leadership artistic-wise, which is also quite new, I think, within the early music. We create also the open dialogue with the ensemble. After concerts, we really ask for feedback. What can we learn? And not only focusing on the younger audience that we, of course, want to attract, and a more diverse audience, but also check with the regular audience where you were talking about, like, okay, but do they appreciate what we are doing and our vision? And can we still connect with them? Because, of course, we want to be progressive and innovative, like everybody wants to be, of course. But we can't lose them, of course. We also really want to stay connected to the regular audience. So it's creating our own identity, but not in a distant way towards the other audience. Just really connect with them, not playing in black clothes anymore, speaking with the audience after the performance in a really open way, open dialogue. And I think we can still, of course, perform in a church. But I saw this amazing project in Antwerp, Extra City, how they reinvent the church, how they repurpose actually a church. And also different locations can be of course, interesting, but the acoustic has to be great. And of course, we love to play in churches as an early music ensemble. But how can we rethink a church also? And then setting up collaborations with different artists. Like we have this early music, we have this beautiful repertoire where we're all in love with, but how can we perform it in a way that really connects with also younger audience, diverse audience, and not the regular audience that we already connect with? So this is really what the Ledon is about, creating an own identity, open dialogue, and really sustainability, also in partnerships with organizations, with different composers and artists. So I think it was really inspiring what you all said. I think it's really connected with also our vision of what early music should be.
Thank you very much, Federica. I'm going to give the word also to Jeremy Nastasi. He is representing the ensemble, the Baroque ensemble, Ibera Auri.
Buongiorno. Bonjour.
Buongiorno.
So I'm the member of Ibarari, that is representing the ensemble in this edition of ECOS Festival. And I think that since its foundation in 2017, the goal of Ibarari was to bring the local sound, the local Spanish sound, to a larger public. We actually participated to cultural manifestation, for example, in Antwerp, in AMUZ, and then we recently attended the Vézelay Cité de la Voix. That was very interesting because we had the opportunity to play our program in small villages, in small churches with a public of between 5 and 20 persons. And well, so our goal is to take the story of Maritápalos, that was a singer of that period of the Baroque, early Baroque period, and to tell this story to a larger public in Europe. I think that's the main goal. Yeah, I think just to give an input to my colleagues and an idea, a general idea, I think that maybe not thanks, but because of the recent crisis, sanitary crisis of the COVID, and of course, with the birth of smart working, I think that a lot of people from huge cities, from really big cities, are moving to countryside and to small countries and starting to live there, starting to have to produce cultural manifestation there. So my question, not a provocation, but my question is, are we talking about demographic challenge or political demographic challenge? Should we pass through the politic challenge, or I mean the politic point of view, or only the cultural one? Especially from the point of view of a young musician with not a lot of possibilities, and it's.
So we have a question here, and thank you, Jeremy. Let's listen the opinion of the promoters first, and afterwards we will give the word again to the ensembles. So first turn, we'd love to give the word to Maider and Múgica.
I'm really happy to hear so many great ideas, and probably the most appropriate approach to your careers and to music, and your contribution that you are already doing to the development of music, and to the development of new formats and new ways to communicate with the audience. I think is fantastic. I would like to underline what Bart said before about quality, because quality is just like the base of everything. You can add on top of quality, you can add everything that we have been talking about, but without the quality, you cannot sustain it, you cannot support it. So quality would be the first focus. I'm also sure about that, and I'm really happy that Bart mentioned it. And what I see in you all is a change from artists, musicians that have been until very recently performers. And you all are musicians like artists, creators, people that are extending the limits of artistry, not only music, but that are very actively thinking about new proposals and new ways to create not only music but art. And I think this is absolutely fantastic. Regarding what you said about the demographic political challenge, it could be that we are now facing a challenge that not only implies culture but a way of living. But I think probably we will be doing a contribution to this, but I'm not sure whether with our training and our experience we can be the leaders of those movements, but I'm sure that we can contribute to the better living of many inhabitants of those areas and people that are, as you mentioned, that are living now in bigger cities and that decide to go to smaller ones. In this case, going to smaller places, I think that, as we have mentioned before, the most important is to create areas where we are not pushing the inhabitants to other places, like with gentrification. And I think this is a very serious and very delicate challenge. I don't have the clues. I don't have the how do you say, the solutions. I don't know how this should be done in order to melt better with the original inhabitants of areas, so that we are not pushing them aside and doing our things without listening to them. But I think if we are facing, as apparently we are, a movement, a political movement, and a change of way of living, with so many people going to smaller places, I think we should think about this, about how we can go to those places and add to the living of these inhabitants without pushing them aside.
Thank you very much, Maider. Pierre, we would like to listen to your opinions.
Yes, a few reactions. A lot of interesting things have been said. A lot of interesting projects also we would like to hear more about, and that I think are going in the right direction. To answer, for example, to what Simon said about interaction with the audience, you have to know the audience. This is imperative. It's a really good attitude to have before you make a concert, to know. Of course, it's obvious when you play in front of children, you know that you will certainly have to adapt your language and the way you talk to them, and even maybe in a musical way you present things with the shorter pieces and everything. But it would be very nice to have an idea of who you have in front of you during a regular concert, for example. And in that case, you can adapt to the people you have in front of you. And to answer to what I don't remember your name, sorry, you said about the Deledone concert, you said about identity. I think my advice, because we work a lot on identity within Emerging Plus. I make artistical identity sessions, and I would say that the most important is not to twist your real nature. We are working on who you are, and once you find who you are truly, then you just be who you are and act like that. So it's very good to make. We are talking a lot of creations, hybridations, new forms, etc. But I know a lot of musicians that don't want to do that, and especially are not able to do that. And if you are not able to do that and you don't want to do that, you don't do that. You stick to what you can do and do it the best you can. And then we will find a way, you will find a way to respect your own artistic identity and not twist it to be some kind of monster. Then you won't dominate, and you will do something that doesn't reach the quality Bart and Maider were talking about. And it's a risk, of course. And maybe to answer to what Jeremy said, I don't think you don't have to put the politics aside. You cannot put the politics aside. You live in a society, you are musicians from a society, you are part of it. You are not only musicians, but you are citizens. So you of course, maybe you don't want to have a political commitment, but everything you do has a political commitment. The concert you do, for the people you do, if you only do concerts in church and don't deal with a young audience or everything, of course, it's something you can choose to do, but maybe that doesn't go in the right direction. And the last thing is that I hope that someday you will maybe get some subsidies from a local institution or a national institution, your government and things like that. And then, of course, politics cannot be aside, and the demographic challenges that the politics want to put forward, you have to respect them. And then we would talk more about the topic of the last conference you have, Jorge, about diversity, for example. It's something that in France we cannot put aside, of course, and we have to, and it's a very good thing. And then if you have subsidies from the states, you have to deal with the presence of the balance between men and women, everything. So it's, of course, we can't put politics aside. I think it's my opinion.
We have movements and reactions here in my left side. So I will give the word before Bart Demuyt talks. I will give the word to Federica from the Letone and maybe to Jeremy and Anastasia, who were also brought the topic of the politics in this table. But first, Federica, please.
Thank you so much, Pierre, for your answer about identity. I think yes, not to twist your nature is really, really important, because otherwise you lose yourself and you're not authentic anymore. I think with Deledone Concert, we really actually, like, our vision, like the bottom line of the whole ensemble is to be actually an integer ensemble. We are really aware of the gender balance. Also in the board of our organization, I also did just some research about the gender balance in the early music sector in Flanders, actually, for the University of Antwerp and Kunstprints. So I think it's really, really be aware of your authentic identity and exactly never change it, because you don't want to be commercial and like really want to be like the audience wants you to be. You want to be yourself, but in a really authentic and, for us, integer way. Also in partnerships where we play, the audience that we see, the way we talk to them, it's all about who we are and our identity. So we really try to be as authentic as possible, actually. Voilà.
Well, thank you very much for your answers. And no, actually, I don't have much more to add. So I just wanted to know your opinions, and thank you very much.
Then it's the turn of Bart Demuyt.
Okay, thank you, Jorge. First of all, the political issue. I totally agree with Pierre that there is always a political side on each movement, but I'm thinking back to the words in I think it was 1993, where Antwerp was European capital of culture. And the most important words were at that moment, can art save the world? I think every time we are busy with culture, we are busy with politics, we are busy with the society, we are busy with each other, we are busy with dealing with people. And in that context, it's not the issue today, the topic today for today, but the diversity. I think we have a lot of work to do. Also, myself and my organization, we are in the middle of Antwerp. You know, in Antwerp, one of the Jewish people are very important in Antwerp, but it's so difficult to make a bridge with the Jewish community. And it's a goal, but we have no answer yet. And I think in the different cultures in one city, we have no answer sometimes. So we are busy with it, but we have a lot of steps we have to go further and further. So that was on the issue of the politics. A second important issue came from my Flemish colleague around the table. You spoke about reinventing, rethinking, and I think that's really very, very important. But we all know, or I hope we all know, that the early music is something of rethinking, reinventing. The days that Kees Boeke, Frans Bruggen, and all the first guys in Concertgebouw Amsterdam were taking the tomatoes to really to have a kind of war against the traditional romantic way of performing Bach or Telemann or Handel. It's not so long ago. So I would say, I really a believer, if you are saying, let's reinvent everything, let's rethink everything, let's do it day by day. always again and again. I think that's really important. And then for me, the last two issues already mentioned by my two colleagues and also by you guys, musicians, new ways, finding new ways to create art. That's so, so important. Be flexible. Yes, I think this is I think it's a challenge, but I can imagine that it's also sometimes very difficult to find each time again new, to be each time again flexible, flexible to send a new proposal to a promoter, flexible to write a new application for money for the government, flexibility to communicate with a lot of people around you, etc., etc. So the idea, I think it was Simon who said it, the idea to have each day a kind of release of a part of a project, it's very intelligent. So go for it. And to say my last words about something Pierre mentioned, and that's about language. Isn't it the things we are doing in the early music world? Isn't it to speak languages and communication? You can communicate. I have yesterday, it was the anniversary of my daughter's daughter. She was 1 year old. And it's not possible for her to speak. She's not in the possibility at this moment to speak with words. But her mother, my daughter, from the beginning of the birth, she learned, Lina, to communicate with movements. So we all know sleeping, but come to me, etc., etc. So life is all about languages. And is it a movement? Is it a real language? Is it also the face? You can speak with the face. Is it also the setting in a concert hall, or is it a setting in the middle of a church, or in the middle of an abbey, or in the middle of a rural region where you are in the field where you are doing a work of Dufay together with Stravinsky? I don't know, but I think it's all about language. It's all about communication, and I really appreciate that all of you, the four ensembles, but also the ensemble who has to leave. I've seen them last week in Antwerp. I really appreciate that you all are day by day, you are looking for the best way to communicate. And I think it's our duty as promoters, but I think it's also a duty for the government to listen to this generation and to build together the future of the early music.
Thank you very much, Bart, again for these inspiring words. Also, thanks to Pierre, Maider. We still have 10 minutes to communicate and to say a golden minute maybe about we will start with the ensemble of what we can do with this art. How can we communicate? How can we head against the demographical challenge, a more equal balance in our countries, in Europe, of the culture and of possibilities for the creativity and for the living. So what can we do as musicians for these challenges? We will start with Theo Ayo.
Yeah, so when we look at who is in concert halls, we said before already that it's more gray, or that also maybe in rural places there's less young people, they go away, and it's there's really this demographic challenge. And we were thinking we could be inspired by how kids concerts work. In kids concerts, you think about what the kids know and then you present something new to them. For example, kids love stories, you make a story and then you play your pieces. But how can we do this thing like a kids concert, but not for kids? Can we do it for young adults or other generations, where we think, what do they know? And then how do we present new things to them? Yeah. So concretely, an example might be that, like, we haven't done this. We're thinking maybe to do this. An example would be to do improvisation. So early Baroque music, lots of improvisation. If we bring in like a pop guitarist who plays improvisations, we improvise on bus continuo lines, and then we do it together, for example. So something like that, where there's a clear connection between what they know, what we love, and how we show it to them. Yeah, it's an idea.
It was useful to hear you mention the idea of having goals. I think Litorina has a number of goals, and actually following on from just what's been said, sort of playing to young musicians, young children is a big part of what we're doing as an ensemble. I just wanted to say it was really useful to have the idea of the double program notes. I think that's something that I'm going to use a lot of the time, and not necessarily with children, but if there are going to be people who aren't necessarily that knowledgeable about music, I think it's a really useful idea.
Thank you. We will give the microphone to Jeremy Nastasi from Rivera Auri, and afterwards we will listen again to Federique from Belteledone also.
Well, to answer Bart's question of half an hour before, I think that my goal as a musician and as an artist is to apply, to use all the advices you gave us, Bart, so to reinvent and to find new ways to communicate. But I wanted to add something that is, for me, it's the most important thing, and my final goal of maybe of my life, of my artistic life, is just to continue being myself and to express my way of doing it. That's all.
Thank you so much for all the advice and all the inspiration that you gave us. Yes, I think we should not only reinvent, which I'm completely focusing on in this session, but we should always also value the expertise that we already built, that we already have. And I know the Jewish, because I live in Antwerp, not so far of AMUZ, the Jewish community is very close, but we have so many other also communities in Antwerp. And of course, we can also think about what we already know, how to come to them, because I think they, of course, we want them to come to us, but maybe we can also more come to them. I think that's also very important. I also think that we should rethink the role of musicians, that we are not only musicians, but we also have a responsibility as musicians, as our new generations, to put a focus on these demographic challenges, diversity, sustainability, and all these really important things that are going on right now. We're not only musicians, we're also performers. We not only give a concert with just repertoire, just playing it really good, just piece by piece, but also really create a performance to really bring the audience during the performance, not giving concerts anymore, going to the performance, not just being the musician who tries to perform the repertoire as good as possible, respecting the performance practices that we know, but also try to create. And I think with our ensemble, we started to create with live electronics, but also with polyphonic repertoire, which was really tricky to do because we were a little bit scared of the response, but we did a premiere, and actually we had such a diverse audience. We had young people, we had a lot of diversity, but we also had the early music audience who came to us like, okay, we wanted to see something new, and we asked like, okay, what do you think? Do you think it's really bad that we do the polyphonic repertoire with live electronics? And actually, of course, it was one performance. The reactions were, oof, it was a relief for us that it was really positive. So it's not about only rethinking, we have expertise, let's use it all together. Like, how can we create these bonds? How can we create sustainability in every level?
Thank you very much, Federique, Jeremy, Anita, Simon, Ian, and also the rest of the ensembles. We are very happy that we can share ideas here at the ECOS Festival. We think, as Federique said, that being a musician is not only playing music and playing beauty, but doing something with this beauty and the music for the society and for the world. And the proof is here, all these ensembles sharing their art in the early music fashion. I would love to let the last chance for Bart, Maider, and Pierre to talk. So you can just start Bart Demuyt, and then when you finish Maider, I will invite you to talk directly, and then Pierre. Thank you.
Thank you, Jorge. To finish, it was really, I was pleased to hear all the young ideas and the very good ideas. For me, one important thing Maider said, and maybe it's something to take with us and to think about that, is her experience in Germany. I thought in one of the musea there, that you could follow the tour with different layers, and that's for me a concept I knew also in Brussels. Some musea are working it, but I never thought about how to manage it in the concert world and in the music world. So the person from Delle Donne was speaking about it's not bringing the music, it's about performing. And I think there we can think about scenography, we can think about bringing other arts inside the early music world. And I think there's yeah, a lot of future, and the future is up to you guys, young musicians, and it's the responsibility to bring you in the concert halls is, I think, also ours.
Yeah, you can go directly. Thanks.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you all for so many great ideas. It has been wonderful, and yeah, I'm very happy to just be part of this roundtable. Thank you very much. And as a little summary, I would say, and as a keyword, listen. To be contemporary people of our world, so we have to react to what it is happening there. So listen, and also to these communities that we haven't reached yet. Maybe it's not that much about how we have to communicate what we have to tell them, but that we have to listen first to their heritage, to their message, because otherwise we somehow are acting as in the past as colonialists. Mm-hmm. We have to listen more about what they have to tell us, so that we can prepare better our message and adapt better this message to these other people that so far are not interested in our message, not yet.
Yes, thank you very much to all for all your participation to this discussion. It's very enriching, it's very nice. And on my side, I would finish with what Simon said, that young people love stories, but I would say that grown-ups love stories too. So it's all about storytelling. Tell us a story, tell us who you are, tell us and be who you are, and you will do things great. So just if you have something to tell, then we will be here to listen. So yeah, just it's not only about just playing music, it's telling us a story.
Thank you very much again, Pierre, Maider, Bart. We have talked about small villages. We have talked about the rest of the world. Maybe we're very focused on Europe. Maybe next year we'll talk also about the rest of the world and our relationship and the relationship of early music and colonization and all the countries and continents. It's very interesting. Maider, thanks for bringing it here. Because the relationship of the CNDM with Latin America is very, very close, and we have a lot to explore. We have also people here in the table, people from other continents, and I think this will come very soon. But now we have talked about communication. We had very nice idea for the four ensembles. Thank you for bringing it, and we will continue here at ECOS Festival, and I'm sure also at AMUZ and CNDM fighting or giving the best energy we can to affront the challenges of the new century. We'll continue tomorrow talking more deeply about sustainability. Thank you again and see you at the ECOS.
Bye. Success with ECOS.